Hare Krishna. Hello, everyone. We're going to get right to business. No fooling around like last time. Here we are with the Bhagavad Gita, as it is, by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. I am going to practice the very first invocation prayer because I really like it, to be honest, and I'm going to practice it in English and Sanskrit. It's pretty cool mantra prayer there, you know? I think there's a name for it. I don't know what it is. Here we go. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tashmai Shri Guru Vai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mayam Dadati Sva Padantikam. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. $232 is where we left off last time. I should probably use a bookmark. Yeah, I'll use my 1-year limited warranty. That'll work. I'm going to put that in now so I don't forget. There it is, 32. Oh, Partha. Happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. Okay, this is a great verse which shows the mood of Dharma, of how to do Dharma well. Whether you're Kshatriya or anyone else, your primary duty when you're good at being a Kshatriya or Sudra or Brahmin, whatever, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed work. Sometimes you have to work and do tapasya and do different things just to be able to do what you're supposed to do. you know? So when opportunity knocks and you have an opportunity to do exactly what a kshatriya should do without any effort on your part, you should be very happy about this, even if you're not in the right mood. And like I said, that's true for all the varnas, all the ashrams, pretty much anything in general. I mean, that's the dharmic perspective I'm showing here, is that whatever your dharma is, if you are indeed holding true to your heart, your dharma above all else, then that means that you will be happy when some of these opportunities are given to you unsought. I'm reading the purport here. For a kshatriya to be in the battlefield and to become non-violent is the philosophy of fools. It's very important, and unfortunately, mostly irrelevant to most people listening, including myself and others, because there are no real kshatriyas. There's no real qualified kshatriyas basically anywhere. So nonviolence in a world, in our Kali Yuga world that's full of violence, is actually appropriate for most people to be practicing. Um, I guess if you're a Vaishya, you have to do what you can to make your profits. That is part of being a Vaishya. But and that's the problem with our world, is the Vaishyas are in charge of everything, and they don't care about causing violence and making trouble to make money, and no one is checking them. That's the big problem, is we don't have kshatriyas or brahmins either that are checking the Vaishyas at all. And the Vaishyas are not even Vaishyas. They have a Sudra nature, or lower than Sudra is probably more accurate. Even finding a solid Sudra is actually pretty hard these days. Okay, 33. If, however, you do not fight this religious war, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So it's important here that Krishna says, you will incur sins for neglecting your duties and lose your reputation as a fighter. Those are two different things. So anytime you neglect your duty, there's sinful reactions from that alone. On top of that, and this is, Krishna says that after that, to once again inspire Arjuna to do his duty, because even if you're not fully in this dharmic mode of life, or if like Arjuna you are, but you're just forgetful and having a bad time or whatever, most of us, especially kshatriyas, are very sensitive to our own honor or respect or dignity or reputation, whatever word you want to use. They're all basically the same thing here. And so for someone who's lost, temporarily lost even, when you tell them that, their reputation will suffer, and then, they'll lose friends and they'll lose honor and that sort of thing, that's typically a really good motivator for most people, especially because it's more base. Like honor and respect, these things are material. They're fully material. A spiritual person, a self-realized soul, will not forego austerity or charity or any of these spiritual activities based on honor. That's not a spiritual. That just doesn't make sense coming from a self-realized soul. It's not a variable that comes into their consciousness. It doesn't have weight in their decision making. Let's put it that way. But if you're a very saintly person like Arjuna, and you're very dharmic and you have all these good qualities, but even still you're having a bad mood, you're lamenting, you're foolish, whatever. What that means is you've been degraded from this original good, sober, transcendental, whatever kind of state, to a slightly degraded state, a more base state, closer to the primal material energy, more going lower, more base. That's when the things that are more base and primal will have more an effect on you, such as reputation. Now, Arjuna is very glorified personality, so Krishna probably or definitely is thinking he doesn't have to go any lower than honor to really inspire Arjuna. And that's what we see in the rest of the Gita, that Krishna speaks philosophy, speaks very advanced topics to Arjuna, and to get Arjuna to fight. And this works for Arjuna because he's a very advanced soul. He's just, at that particular moment, he's just overwhelmed by certain things. Unfortunately, for many of us, we don't have someone like Krishna. We don't have some bona fide master, guru, Lord of the universe. Forget about Lord for now, but we don't have a teacher that really cares about us, that really has absolute authority, who's right next to us, we can sit with for 2.5 straight hours talking about the deepest philosophical things in the world. Most of us just don't have that circumstance now. Um, and unfortunately, you know, when I teach others, whether it's my students who are children or anyone else, friends, adults who are older than me. Unfortunately, people are so degraded now that if you tell them, oh well, you'll lose some honor, you know. I mean, I'm already laughing because in America, at least, that word honor has no meaning. There's no gravitas to it at all. If you say, this will bring dishonor on your family. It's like, what are we in the medieval ages? What am I, Japanese? What's wrong with you? You know? But if you say, oh, well, you know, if you don't do this, you know, well, the IRS will send you a letter and you'll have to pay 40% more for this. You'll have a late fee and a penalty that, whoa, okay, well, do whatever you want, man. You know, that's kind of, you know, the reality, the bottom line for many of us today. Um, and that's fine because, like, for a genuine teacher such as myself, I have to use whatever's available to me to get my students to do the right thing and to get back on the path. You know, it's like, you know, you're Rocky and, you know, you get knocked down, but you're not down for the count. You know, you stand up and you get ready to keep on punching. You know, yo, you do what you can. You get up, you keep on punching. And so if I have to, you know, do some, it's not threatening, but say like, oh, well, you know, if you don't practice this dharmic culture, then in the end, you'll lose this material benefits, the money, this, that. If I had to say something like that to get you to get it and to start practicing this more seriously, I totally will. Uh, and that's not a lie either. It's you just have to change your perspective. Like, if you want to be more spiritual, then yes, you have to be willing to let go of all of your material goods, all of them, your body, your wealth, your family. You have to be ready to forego all of those if you really want God and the spiritual kingdom. Look what Abraham did. Look what, you know, look at all these, look what Jesus did, look what he gave up. I mean, you have to you have to tapasya, tapa, the first two syllables ever, tapa. You have to give up something. There's no way around that. Even if you try artificially, there's no way around it. um, and so for us, for me as a teacher, and other people as guides and leaders and whatever in the world, we need to do whatever we can to get others to um, just get back on the path and just keep trying, and be okay that you lose some rounds here and there, you make some mistakes, but you just have to keep going, because the only way you're guaranteed to fail is when you stop. That's failure. Actually making mistakes and making and failing and like having really embarrassing failures is part of success. That's not a problem. That's actually, you're supposed to do that. But it's when you stop and you say, oh, I'll just, you know, I'll just do something that'll be more comfortable, be more materially comfortable, and forego the spiritual life or the metaphysical life in general. That's when you lose. That is when you that's when you lose big time, and you have to reincarnate a whole bunch more times. That's a very big loss, which Krishna will talk about later. About, like, Arjuna asks him, like, what happens to the yogi who tries and fails in this lifetime? Well, he goes to heaven, and he, like, you know, and he comes back with a really good chance to try again. So it's not the end of the world. I don't want to skip over Prabhupada, but I'm on the roll, so I'm just going to keep going. There's small purports anyway. Prabhupada's talking about the Mahabharata, a lot of historical background stuff here. Anyway, 35. Well, this is this is a very important verse. I think this is one of them that's in my notes, my all-time favorites. Scrolling past the book of Matthew. Death is worse than dishonor. Yep, that's actually the verse. Oh, yeah, it is 34. Okay. Thought maybe in my notes I had the wrong number. Okay, 34. People will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. This one, if you're masculine, if you're a dharmi like me, this is everything. This verse describes like 80% of Japanese culture today and for the past 1,000 years. This single verse is like dharma extracted to its like most potent state. Because remember, we're not just talking. The specific case of dharma we're talking about here is a kshatriya, a noble kshatriya on the battlefield, whose general in command is God Himself. So this context is the king of dharma, which is exactly why it's so beautiful that ultimately then Krishna just says, forget about all these other dharmas and just do me, and that's real. That's the not penultimate. That's the ultimate dharma. All right, let's see what Prabhupada says. Both as friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield, people will call you a coward even before your actual flight. Even before you leave, they're going to call you a coward. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you do better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. Okay, that's the key here that I wanted to talk about. This only works. This verse only means anything to you if you're actually a respectable person. If you've never tasted honor and respect received from a genuinely honorable person, this has no meaning for you in your life. And there's really no way I know how to bridge that gap. Because as for me, I was honored to a very high degree at a very young age. So, and I learned this. I mean, I don't even know if I learned this. I may have been born with this mentality where, like, when someone tells me to do something that will dishonor myself or it just isn't the right thing to do, my first thought is absolutely not. I'd rather die. And another person who made a similar statement and ethos, mood or attitude, is Socrates, who said the unexamined life is not worth living. And so for Socrates, being, having eyes and ears and a body and good food, if he's not in a position where he can just meditate and examine things more deeply, all that other stuff does nothing, and he might as well just die, which of course he did. He put his money right where his mouth was, and he was sentenced to death for examining life too deeply and then teaching it to others too well. And of course, then, Jesus was the next one who happened like that. There's so many in history like that. Oh, I hope I'm not the next one. I don't want to die like that, to be honest. So you should not flee or fear of your life. Better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in society. Okay, there's another stinging punch from Krishna. I mean, Prabhupada is paraphrasing what Krishna is thinking. Yeah, guys, this is so important. What Prabhupada does here in this purport is he's doing exactly what I've been doing so far since I started streaming today, where Prabhupada is getting into the mind of Krishna and really trying to understand this personally. So there's the first sentence of the purport, and then it says, the Lord says, quote, and he goes, and Prabhupada writes all this stuff until the end of the purport basically. And it's, if you're reading it carefully, you'll see he's not, Prabhupada isn't quoting another verse or something. He's saying like this is, he's doing the same thing I'm doing. He's saying he's explaining to you in this personal way so that you can personally relate to it. You know, it's 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 like when someone's saying something to you and you don't quite get it, and someone else, says, well, what he's saying is like this and this and that. It's like, you, I'm explaining this to you in, hopefully in a way that is easier to understand and relate with. And because I'm doing it out of good faith and a good will, just like Prabhupada, um, I can do this. Just like Prabhupada does this, where he says, um, there's some strong language here and there's a lot of assertions, but, you know, underneath it all is goodness. So even if it's not like picture perfect, oh, well, Krishna didn't actually say exactly that, he said, it's like what Krishna said is absolute and perfect. But the problem with that is that it's so dense and absolute and perfect and pure that we don't, most of us really can't just accept it right away. We need like a longer explanation, a more maybe down to earth explanation, or something like that. This verse is so short. It's actually, this is one of the few verses in the Gita which is shorter in English than in Sanskrit. It's one sentence. This verse is one sentence. But then Prabhupada explains it by saying the Lord says, and he paraphrases what Krishna is thinking, what Krishna is like trying to say in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sentences. Prabhupada expanded from one sentence to 5 for our benefit. And that's the same thing I've been doing with all these verses. And I may not be, 100% right. I'm not claiming that I know exactly what's going on in the mind of Krishna, but I'm I'm personally relating to this as much as I can in a way that's just bare bones, logical, common sense. So I'm in the safe zone. And Prabhupada, of course, being more advanced than me, he's in a far higher place than just the safe zone. But the whole thing I'm trying to do with my teaching for devotees is to show how Vedanta actually works, which you don't learn in ISKCON. They don't act like what Prabhupada is doing here in this Gita is very, I mean, I see similar things happening in the classes, in online lectures and stuff, but well, one reason is a lot of devotees are good devotees, and they wouldn't dare, you know, say what they think over what Prabhupada thinks, or I mean, sometimes it's cowardice, sometimes it's humility, but um, yoga, this culture of yoga that goes back millions of years in India, is not that. Yes, they're humble people, and humility is super important, but when you're in the place that many of these ancient masters are in, and many modern Western people are in this place too, like Steve Jobs, who is just like so hungry to make a device that actually felt and looked nice. That's all he wanted to do. Like, there was a bunch of these nerds who had control of the industry, and they're making this nerdy crap that like only nerds like, and he's like, dude, we can just design it nicely and everyone will like this. And he just like wanted that so bad, and he was such an asshole to so many other people, pardon my language, but he got it done and we all love him for it. It's the same thing in yoga. Like, when you're really hungry for the truth or bliss or understanding, whatever it is, if you're genuinely hungry for it, for a good reason, for the betterment of yourself and others, everyone else gets out of the way. Prabhupada will get out of your way. I mean, Krishna will get out of your way. He's going to help you. Everyone who's bona fide and advanced enough or higher, they'll just say, oh, that's great, man. What can I do to help you keep going higher? So we don't have to, like, because I'm in that position, whether you believe it or not, this is why I appear fearless and sometimes rude, and people are like, oh, I think you're being a little rude, Babu. Oh, I'm trying to refresh my camera here. It's getting a little fuzzy. Now it's more fuzzy. When I do stop cam, nothing happens. I'll switch the camera. I'll switch back. All right, focus came back a little bit. Hari Bull. All right, so I didn't even finish yet. Okay, so at the very end, Prabhupada says that Krishna is saying, this will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship. Wow. So in the last verse, I was thinking more about the ill fame among his brothers, among his peers. The other kshatriyas will think, oh, you're such a coward, you're such a bad kshatriya. Whereas, the Sudras and the Vaishyas, they're not even on the battlefield. They don't really care. But, being a dishonorable kshatriya among honorable kshatriyas is like really bad. But it's very bhakti. It's very bhakti that Prabhupada says here, that Krishna is saying the worst fame, and this is true, the worst dishonor and the worst ill fame imaginable is misusing the friendship of Krishna. And then secondarily, losing your prestige in society. It's better to die in battle than withdraw. Okay, quick review about this verse. For one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. Guys, this only works if you've actually been honored. If you read this verse and you say, oh, well, I mean, I can take an insult a little bit, and then I'd rather live and just be insulted a little bit than, whatever. You don't get it. And it's not because you're stupid. It's because you have not been honored. You just haven't been honored at once. You haven't truly been honored once in your entire life. I know for a fact that's true for so many people I've met. Sorry, it's just the truth. We don't, like, in America, we don't have honor anymore. That's not a mode of reality that exists anymore in human society in this country and many others, many similar ones. It doesn't exist anymore at all. Like I said, in Japan, it's the opposite. From a very young age, they start learning about honor and the grave consequences to self and others when there is dishonor, and because that also spreads to the whole family as well. Anyway, let's move on. 35. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you a coward. Okay, the important lesson here is that even though you may have good reasons for doing something like nonviolence, which is a very great spiritual virtue, although it's inappropriate in this context, but whatever your good reason is for doing something, most people, even if they're not dharmic or in a dharmic culture, they are going to only see the superficial thing that's easiest for them to see, that also they will benefit the most from. So other people are going to always benefit more by seeing something in you that makes them inferior, that makes you inferior to them. That's rational self-interest. I mean, it's also, in Kali Yuga, you can expect it. Let's just keep it at that. So Yeah. I mean, when a kshatriya is in a battle and withdraws, it's natural for us to think, oh, he's a coward. Because your primary um the primary thing that one of the primary things that makes a kshatriya warrior, soldier, whatever, is their bravery. That's the one thing that like the other three varnas, I mean, they're brave in certain ways, but like the most brave men, that's a kshatriya. Um, and so if you're in a battle, the most, dharmic place for a kshatriya, and you're not even fighting, you're just running away, it doesn't matter what your reason is. They'll simply assume you're a coward. Like if you're a Brahmin and you uh, run away from a philosophical debate, people will immediately assume you're a coward. Doesn't matter if you had a good reason or not. They simply assume you're a coward. Um, and for Vaishya, if you think, oh, well, I should really, continue with this business, but oh man, it's really rough and the people are so mean and I better just, flee to the forest. You're a coward. Unless you're actually a Brahmin and you're born into this Vaishya culture and you need to go through this experience to find out that you actually are a Brahmin and have been all along. For many, I've found, I won't generalize, but those are two different contexts, right? If you're actually a Vaishya and you have an opportunity to make some money and you don't do it out of, I don't know, most reasons, especially if you're known as a Vaishya, everyone will think you just messed up. You made a mistake. And then you'll lose points. You'll lose social points for that, which will exacerbate the sinful reactions that are already there anyway for neglecting your duties. Even if you can't tell what a sinful reaction is, like even if you can't perceive it when it comes later, it will happen anytime you neglect your duty. Um, and likewise, when you perform your duty perfectly, you may not notice at all the positive outcome of that for many years or at all. You may not ever notice it. Like with myself, I mean, I've done unbelievable good things in my past lives to get here, and I've forgotten all of them. And who knows how many lifetimes I spent, you know, slowly waiting for them to accrue up to this point. I mean, it's just like it's inconceivable. So that's why we don't want to worry about it. That's why karma yoga, dharma, these basics are happening in early in the Gita, second chapter, third chapter, because it's the foundation from which you build your whole spiritual life and advancement. I love this new banner. I have this little ticker on the bottom. Krishna is God. Krishna is God. um, for those of you who are like me and you're just doing japa all the time, like you put on a video and just do japa the whole time, I'm going to make a new ticker. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There we go. There's the Maha Mantra right there at the bottom of your screen in case you've forgotten it, or in case you want to just keep chanting and look at it at the same time. By all means, you do not have to pay perfect attention to me. Once again, two times in a row, um, Prabhupada does the same exact thing. He says, Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna, quote, blah, 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 blah. The entire purport here is Prabhupada putting himself in the position of Krishna, which is totally fine, not because, ooh, I'm God. This is a devotee. He has to do this. There's no way around this. How can you love someone and share your experience with them and not empathize with them? This is empathy. We do this with our friends, with our family, anyone we care about. We empathize with them. And so we have to do this while we're reading the Gita. We have to empathize with Arjuna and empathize with Krishna in our own way. First off, when you begin, you have to do it in whatever way you can that makes sense for you. And the whole path of sadhana and spiritual advancement is getting to the point where you don't have to consciously empathize anymore. There's not those sinful things that get in the way, anarthas, samskaras, whatever. It's like as you're reading, you're like everything is just making perfect sense. And it's like, yeah, I would say that too. And I mean, I'm grossly oversimplifying the process. I'm sorry about that, but yeah, very nice. 36. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful to you? All right, so right here, Krishna is clearly just like hammering in this point that, like, come on, buddy, remember yourself. You're a kshatriya, and you will be dishonored, and it will be worse than death. Once again, rhetoric. Krishna's using great rhetoric here by ending it with a question. What could be more painful for you? That mean when there's a question like that, the only way you can answer it is by actually imagining in your head things that are more painful, which in this case is totally bona fide. This is just solid communication skills. This is how daddy talks to son when son is, being forgetful. It's, well, really think about it for a second here. Come on, man. 37. O son of Kunti, either you'll be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up and fight with determination. For many of us, this is really this is the material inspiration. You go to heaven, or you have heaven on earth. It's that simple. So any logical, sane person would stop right here and say, "Oh, okay, I'll fight." And it doesn't mean Arjuna is not logical or he's not rational. I'm sure he's more intelligent than all of us, but I think it's mostly because Arjuna is so saintly, because he has this really sensitive, bhakti-filled heart, and he's so close to Krishna that he can be really, really forgetful. The intelligence is still there, but Yoga Maya is just tripping him up, or Maha Maya, or both. Like the more sensitive you are, the more trouble you can get when something bad happens. And this is, the one famous story of this is the great saint who sees a beautiful deer just before death and becomes so enveloped in love for the deer that he incarnates as a deer in his next life. That's a real story, because that really happens. Because when you improve spiritually, as each level that you improve brings you closer to the next higher level, but at the same time you get more sensitive. So whatever downfall you get in that higher state will bring you down even further. It's really hard to explain. It's exponentially going up and exponentially going down at the same time. You can imagine it as like a vertical asymptote on a function, where like it's going up all the way to infinity and down all the way to infinity at on the same line. That's the best thing I can think of. And what our goal is to be the asymptote itself, right? But then you're going to think, oh, is that he's saying, oh, you got to be one with everything, man? It's like, no, the function is embodied in the material world, but the asymptote is metaphysical. So, I may be y equals 2 asymptote, and you may be x equals 3 asymptote, and my friend may be a slant asymptote, but the asymptote does not exist in the real world. That's what asymptote means. And so that's our goal. I mean, that's our nature. We are that eternal spiritual soul that does not really belong here and isn't from here and doesn't actually live here. I mean, like my soul is in my body. I am in my body right now. And when I don't need the body anymore, don't want the body, don't need it anymore, I can give it up and go wherever I want, pretty much. Because, well, it's not just Satchitananda. It's like, I say I as a bhakta, because Krishna has, full desire and full power. And so when you're self-realized, not just as a soul, but as a Krishna conscious soul, all those, superpowers that, like the teleportation and the planet building that you hear about, you actually get more than that. But you don't need it. You have no use for it. Just as a spiritual self-realized soul has no use for material goods like money or status or honor, you don't have use for material superpowers either. The only real use for anything like this is to help others become self-realized, is to use it as a form of teaching or guiding or saving or whatever. At the highest level, that's all there is. It's either just pure bliss and fun with Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, or the Bodhisattva life. Those are the two main final destinations for Jiva, for Atman. Final, keyword final. Back home, back to Godhead. 37. Oh, no, we just read 37. Yep, very little purport there. 38. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting? Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. God, beautiful. This is probably where we're going to end today, because this is another huge verse. This is karma yoga. This is dharma. I guess technically not karma yoga. I mean, because when you're simply fighting for the sake of fighting purely, then that means like you're not actually offering it to the Lord. But at the same time, when you are doing that, you never incur sin. And that's true. And that's what I found out myself, actually, before I even read the Gita, especially by doing things like judo, brewing, winemaking. It doesn't matter what it is, but for me, I found it because I was able in my 20s to do so many different, really difficult things all at the same time, and fully devote my life to just being good at that. And for no other reason, like I wasn't going to be good at it and so then I get the girls, or be good at it and then I make the business or whatever. I wanted to be good at judo, and I still do. I'm not good at judo now, but like I want to practice these things so that I'm good at them, because it's just like fun to be good at something, because it makes myself better. And that's all I need. Like that's what ethos is. And that's how ethos is oh, interesting. I mean, it doesn't always, yeah, ethos, it's really hard to wash away previous sins with ethos, but you can stop any future sin that you might make, you can completely stop it. Once you get into this mode that Krishna mentions in this verse, where you're doing things for the sake of doing them and for no other end, um, this is especially important when you're talking with other people. When you treat people as ends in themselves and not a means to an end, when you're talking to someone just to talk with them, when you're teaching them or learning from them or playing with them just for the sake of doing all those things with no other end in mind, then it's fun. Then you're blameless, you're faultless. There's no more sin incurred. You may make mistakes. Like I may, you know, I can play with people in a way that they get hurt. That's the thing that happens. Um, People who are smaller and weaker than me, if I feel like being physical and they, that's one way, or that's not a common thing with me. The more common thing is I emotionally hurt people because I'm emotionally strong. So so a really something that's mildly edgy for me that I wouldn't take as an insult, someone else can be really hurt by. Um, and that's that may have actually been most common when I was most God conscious in my life, Krishna conscious, and I lost all these friends because I just had no filter and I was just saying the complete truth all the time and just having fun with it. And they were really disturbed by it. And my roommate got a restraining order on me, talking about God all the time and whatever else. Um, but I didn't actually incur sin from any of that. I was greatly benefited from all of that. And soon after, I was in Asia, learning, teaching, great food. I mean, traveling. Like I was greatly rewarded for simply doing things for the sake of doing them and trusting that Krishna takes care of the rest. Um, if I suppose if you stay on this path, even if you never heard about Krishna and you just act in your life like this all the time, well, I mean that's basically what I see in China. That's why I think I like the Chinese so much because they have in their nature already mastered like chapter 2, chapter 3 kind of stuff in the Gita here. Um, and they don't have like the sinful reactions they do have are really small and really tolerable. So they're very like detached and chill and kind of happy and goofy and silly all the time because they're not like broken down by their sins all the time. Whereas Americans, I mean, you know, I see these people sometimes they're just morbidly obese and just moving around is hard for them and they're depressed and they're looking down and they're beating themselves up because they've already been beating themselves up for who knows how many years, decades, lifetimes. It's hard to get up again. It's hard to keep on punching. Um, and that's because you're attached, you're too attached to the fruits, and you want so much, big house, whatever it is, you just want it too much. So then when you don't get it, you have to get hurt by that. You have to suffer for that. Um, so one there's many ways around it. Buddhists, they say, okay, kill all desires. Just stop desiring anything. Just have a void where their desire is. It's just a void. That works. I don't know if it helps you get closer to Krishna, but it does work. That's why it's been 2,500 years still strong running. There's ethos, and which is you could also call karma yoga or dharma. Dharma and ethos are like very, very similar. And that's when you just be excellent. You just forget about doing things and getting things and you just focus on being, just being excellent. You do things for the sake of being, not doing for the sake of more doing or doing for the sake of getting. You're doing for the sake of being. That's ethos, that's dharma, and it works. Um, and of course, as we find in the end, the ultimate thing you can do to stop all this suffering that's happening is you just say, you just like a child, you just cry out for Krishna. That's the best thing to do, the simplest thing to do, the purest thing to do, the most natural thing to do. And even for us bhaktas and bhaktinis, or whatever the female form of that is, um, it's hard to have that childlike innocence and really crying out and being like that. It's really, really hard to do that constantly over and over again. And this is why Lord Chaitanya, the only thing he explicitly wrote down was the Sri Siksastakam, because the Sri Siksastakam, what a mouthful, is about exactly this topic. It's taking, I think, 1866 from the Gita, where Krishna says, abandon all dharmas and just surrender to me. Lord Chaitanya is taking that verse and giving us, expanding it to 8 verses in a practical way so that we can actually practice that verse, 1866, the ultimate lesson of the Gita, and the ultimate technique for everything we want: salvation, liberation, enlightenment, whatever. It's all there in that one verse, expanded into those 8 verses, and it just requires constant practice. You have to really humble yourself. You have to find, if you can't do it, you need to find others who will help humble you. Submit yourself to a monastery, or take on a hobby that's just really difficult. That's what I did, and it worked really well. Just before I found Krishna, I was in that mentality of like, all right, nothing else matters than like getting my yellow belt, or brewing a beer that like the master brewer in town will like more than most other beers, or just because, not because I'm like, oh, look at me, I'm a great brewer, but because that's what brewing is. You just make really good beer, and that's what judo is. You just like do really good throws and stuff. I had to be excellent at those things. It was the only thing that mattered to me. And it's humbling. It's humbling when you really take that on purely, not for the sake of something else, but when you actually start doing that, the advancement comes very quick. And those big scary gurus and teachers who are super judgmental and strict, all of a sudden they start being not strict with you. They start being really friendly with you and really helping you, because they can see it. You're actually there. You're actually part of the conversation again. And this is something men can tell about women instantly. And this is why there's so many marriage problems in the world. A man instantly knows when his woman is actually being a good wife or being a sneaky weasel. Like, we instantly know it. There's no if, and, or but about it. We can self-deceive and lie to ourselves, and find a way to whatever. But we know it. We know it so instantly. There's no faking it. There's absolutely no faking it. And the contrary to that, the women know when the men are being sneaky weasels. So be honest and just be good and stuff. just try to study and learn it. I can't do it all for you, so you have to participate. You have to be part of the conversation. Otherwise, I can't talk with you. And there's so many people, so many other devotees, non-devotees. I just can't talk to you anymore because you're not actually part of this conversation. This conversation that's happening between Krishna and Arjuna, that Prabhupada is having with them and I'm having with Prabhupada, it's a real thing. It's like it's an ongoing dialogue that's constantly happening. And you're either in this conversation or you're not. And as long as you're in the conversation, you're fine. Doesn't matter if you're a neophyte or Uttamatic, whatever. It doesn't freaking matter. Just being with us is everything. And being without us is nothing. I don't care how good you put your tilak on, or how pretty your dhoti looks. If you're not in this conversation with us, you're nothing. Like, I'm happy that you're trying, but if you're not there yet, you're not there yet. And I can't treat you like you're there yet when you're not there yet. Hare Krishna. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he desires the battle. Kshatriya should desire battle, not desire victory, not avoiding defeat, desiring battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or gain, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. Okay, so that's why this works, is because when you're doing something for the sake of itself, especially if it's a bona fide activity, like battle for a kshatriya or philosophy for a brahmin, but even other things, like if you're just like me, like some dude who's just like, oh, I'm going to see if I can make some wine, whatever, I don't think that's part of my varna or svadharma or anything, but it was really useful, beneficial, happy, good that I did it. Um, but if you do it for the sake of itself, just for the sake of learning, just for the sake of growth, whatever, and not sense gratification, that's why you're not incurring sin. It's because everything else in one way or another is sense gratification. Why do you want more money? Is it because there's something inherently valuable at these little paper bills? No, it's because what money buys. Money buys, genitalia of the people you like, and cars, and like fast things, and like comfort, and like the new air conditioner, whatever. Like it buys you things that your senses like. Why do you like uh, status, fame? Why do you like name and fame? It's because your senses like it, because the people who look at you like, I love you. Your senses go, oh, really? Thanks. It's all sense gratification. It doesn't matter if it's money, fame, sex, drugs, whatever. All of that stuff ultimately boils down to sense gratification. And the only way to get out of that trap, the two main ways that I'm seeing here, is ethos or dharma, where you just focus on improving yourself for the sake of yourself and nothing else, or for just excellence for the sake of excellence, or duty for the sake of duty. You do that, or you do Krishna. You just devote yourself to the Lord. Whatever problem you have, there's a Lord of that, and a Lord of that, and a Lord of that, Lord of the Lord of the Lord. Like we are the servant of the servant of the servant. It goes Lord of the Lord all the way to the top to Krishna. And if you go, it's kind of counterintuitive. But yeah, but it's true though. Like yeah, we should do well by Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Swami and all the other gurus, but guys, the truth is, if you just do it just for Krishna, and not Krishna in spite of the guru, but if you do it wholeheartedly for Krishna and you forget about everything else, there's no sin. There's no sin incurred. Just like when you're doing something for the sake of just being more excellent, or just because it's your duty, there's no sin. You can make mistakes, you can make rewards, but there's no sin as long as you're in that mode of, I'm just going to keep doing it. I don't care if good or bad happens. I'm just going to keep doing it. It's just my duty. I have to do my duty. I'm just going to keep doing it. Or I want to be, I have to be excellent to be good at anything, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, whatever. So I have to keep doing this to get excellence. And look, I'm still not excellent, so I have to keep doing it until I'm like better. I just have to keep doing it. And I don't care about anything else until I just know that I'm there, and I just keep on going. You don't get sin from that, because that is being on the path. It's being part of the conversation. And when you're part of the conversation on the path, everyone takes care of everyone else. This is the good guys. This is the white hats. That's what it means. We take care of each other. We're not demons who like pretend we're taking care of each other, but we're like sneaking behind our backs and like, no, that's something else. That's not the path. That's a different path. The actual path, the yellow brick road. We all take care of each other. We all take care of everyone else. And there's no fear. There's no mistrust. There's no duplicity. Everything is all fine. Just stay on that path. Once you get it, just hold on to it, and you're all set. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to material activities. Yeah, and so Krishna is transcendental to like the ethos dharma thing that I was talking about. Krishna is even more transcendental to that, of course. Um, he who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary cause of activities. It is said in the Bhagavatam 11.5.41, anyone who has completely surrendered unto Krishna, Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. That is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses that we will do next time, starting with 239. I'm going to write that down there, 239, next time. Alrighty. Hare Krishna, everyone. I think that was my best class yet. It's not a class. This is just a reading. I don't know. Best live stream. Let's keep it with that. See you next time. If you didn't notice that I was streaming at this moment, it's because this was a last-minute stream. So if you want to be included, you have to subscribe and turn on all notifications. Click the bell and then go to all, not personalized or none, all notifications, and then you'll stay in the loop. Hare Krishna, Haribol.